Today I will take you through my process of weathering a set of Japanese WaMu freight cars. I've already weathered 7 of the 8 I own and will show you how to get this one to look just like the others. These cars were a type of 2-axle enclosed wagon built between 1960 and 1981. While over 26,000 of these cars were built, these specific sets were refurbished from prior builds in the early 1990s and used through 2012 for carrying rolls of paper from the Osaka area to the Tokyo area. For my layout, I'm imagining a situation in which their lifespan continued past the removal of the Umeda freight terminal, so they will show a bit more wear than the prototype. The first step before weathering is to paint some details left off of the production model. Using the reference photos, we can see white markings placed along the step edges, the brake lever, and some other underbody details. Here, I'm using the Tamiya XF2 flat white paint and a fine brush to add the details. Once the details are painted, we can continue on to the weathering. As the base coat, I use Tamiya dark brown panel accent color. This is a thinned enamel paint that spreads into the fine lines and edges on the model. While this is usually applied using the fine brush built into the cap, I'm applying it liberally in this case to all sides and the roof using a larger brush. Since these are going to represent older cars on my layout, the amount applied is less of an issue compared to more modern looking models. Once you've given it a full coating, let the base layer dry for about an hour. It can be tempting to handle the model, but it stays a little tacky for a bit even if it looks dry. From learned experience, I promise you will leave visible fingerprints that are harder to remove. Next, we will apply a coat of light gray Tamiya panel line accent color. Applying the light gray in the same way we applied the dark brown, you will see in some areas that the thinner in the paint will react to the lower level and mix together. It's important to blend your colors since naturally various substances will collect on the vehicle over its lifetime. Always make sure you stroke downward when applying layers so that you end up with a buildup that accumulates in the natural flow direction of water. For the last layer using Tamiya paint, we will use the deep brown accent color. This time, using the applicator brush built into the cap, we will apply a small amount around some of the lower edge and along the bottom of raised panels on the sides of the car to simulate a little bit of rust. Over a lifetime of service, the paint on the cars will slowly be sun-bleached and appear faded. For the final layer, I'm going to use the Mr. Weathering color in grayish brown. This will be applied in a very light layer over the top of the whole car. I start by applying the paint to the suspension leaf springs. Once the brush has less residual paint, I apply it to the sides of the car. Again, remembering to keep most of your strokes going from top to bottom. The goal is to apply a very light layer to the whole body of the model. The Mr. Weathering colors work to provide a light, grimy texture, but also create a very matte finish when dry. I find these to be one of the best ways to remove the plasticky gloss of the model without using a spray matte clear coat. If the layers start to appear too heavy, I always brush downward, collecting as much excess as I can and wipe it off on a paper towel before continuing. If there are areas that start to look a bit uniformly streaky, I will dab them with a cotton swab to break it up. When we get to the roof of the model, I want to make sure I give it a solid covering as well. Instead of just brushing and letting it dry, I make sure to come through and dab the surface with a brush. I use very cheap brushes for this, as this portion might damage them, but it creates an uneven pattern on the surface that looks more natural. Finally, you can see the completed set of weathered cars. Next up, to finish the full set, I'll move on to weathering the Koki 35,000 cars and containers.